much, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here. I did work in this area about 30 years ago for a short time, about 1 year in Tower Hamlets, but many years just over the border in Hackney. And my husband used to teach at what was Robert Montefiore Secondary School, and we fought the campaign to stop its closure many years ago, and it became the local primary school. So we do know the area quite well, and it's really great to be back here. I think, though, the fact that we're having a meeting here at this time is absolutely right. We have got to be having meetings like this all over the country, because it's never been more important to establish a really well-structured, deep-rooted organisation in support of the Palestinian people. It's been a horrendous week when we've seen President Abbas under tremendous pressure from President Obama, no less, to actually give up the most powerful weapon in the Palestinians' arsenal at the moment on the international stage, to give up pressing for action on the Goldstone report against the war crimes of Israel. It shows even more that the international solidarity movement is needed by the Palestinian people even more than ever. It's an absolute irony, a bitter irony, I think, for the Palestinian people that President Obama gets the Peace Prize the day after the Americans have pressured the United Nations Human Rights Council not to discuss the Goldstone report. And while that's going on, the relentless destruction of the hopes of the Palestinian people, material destruction, is going on. An issue that isn't being raised enough is what's happening to the old city of Jerusalem, and of course the Palestinian areas outside of the old city. But the old city itself is in danger, in extreme danger, and I'm sure many of you have read about what's happening at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where the Israelis are undermining the foundations and so on, and they're trying to destroy everything that belongs to the Palestinian people there. And it's something that I hope we'll be taking up much more in the future. I think we should be asking all of our church leaders, whatever religion they are, the Jewish leaders, the Muslim leaders, the Christian leaders, and of course those of us who are secular, to stand up for Jerusalem, because if we don't, it will be forever destroyed, and that's something we'll be taking up. And there is a demonstration later this week. Is it Friday, Martial? Friday lunchtime at the Israeli embassy about that. I'll double check the details. But as well as that, of course, the relentless settlement building, taking more and more of the Palestinian land, destroying more and more of Palestinian homes and agricultural economy in order to construct these concrete monstrosities. And the apartheid wall, which you've all seen. All of this is going on while the Palestinians are expected to just wait upon the Israelis to decide when it is time to have some sort of discussion with them. I'm afraid President Obama, who said he would demand a settlement freeze at the very first hurdle, has absolutely betrayed the hopes of the Palestinian people and given in to Israeli pressure, and that's something we should never forget, and we should pressure him absolutely from now on to live up to those so-called promises. What he did immediately was to stop any pressure on the Israelis and put it on the Palestinians, who are, of course, beleaguered and so on. The problem for the Palestinians is, of course, that the world has turned its back for over 60 years. They turned its back in 1948, when the Israeli groups, the Jewish groups as they were then, waged war against the British and the Palestinians, and the Israeli state was formed in 1948. They turned its back in 1967, when the Israeli army took over the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem as well. The world did absolutely nothing and watched while the Palestinian people were enslaved even further. They turned their back during the first Intifada, when the civil movement really grew strong and people were really fighting against the occupation, fighting peacefully in non-violent civil actions by and large, a few stone throwings and so on, but that was it. And the world did nothing, except, of course, the Palestinians at that time put their faith in the Oslo process, the Oslo Accords, only to see their hopes there totally destroyed and betrayed. As soon as Oslo was agreed, the Israeli settlements really started increasing. Settlements doubled after the Oslo Accords, and we now have 500,000 illegal settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. It's about 1/7 of the population of the West Bank taken by the Israelis illegally, stealing the land. Nobody does anything. The world turned its back in 2002, when in the second Intifada, the Israeli army went into every city in the West Bank except for Jericho. They watched the destruction of Jenin. They saw the war crimes accusations report from Amnesty International at that point about what had happened in Jenin, and they did absolutely nothing again. And as Dennis said, earlier this year, 27th of December to the 18th of January, for all of that period, the world just looked, the world leadership, I have to say, ours included, did nothing, not even strongly condemning what the Israelis were doing to the Gazan people, killing over 1,400 of them and maiming and injuring thousands of them. And still the siege goes on. And I know we're going to discuss later in the meeting, other speakers will take up the issue of Gaza much more specifically than I can in my time, but it is extremely important. We cannot forget what is happening to the people of Gaza today. They've actually put a closure on this month. Nothing is going in and out during the month of October. Nobody is going in and out. How can a country get away with this, with nobody saying anything? It's absolutely appalling. And so our movement, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, sees itself as an important part of building a movement, a mass, broad mainstream movement in this country to win support of the British people for the people of Palestine, to achieve their human, national and political rights. We're a non-party political organisation. We don't take sides about internal Palestinian politics or, of course, British politics. What we want is for everyone of conscience to be part of our movement, as they were in the anti-apartheid movement that Dennis mentioned. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign is committed to self-determination for the Palestinian people. That is the right they have to determine their own future, not to be told it by Israel or the United Nations or America, but to determine it themselves. And that includes the refugees who have been dispossessed, disenfranchised, and so on ever since 1948. And we uphold very strongly the right of return of Palestinian refugees to their homes and their land, should they wish it, and of course full compensation in addition. We also uphold the right of the Palestinian people to have East Jerusalem as a capital for their future state, and of course their right to have a sovereign state. These are the principles that we abide by. These are the things that we have taken out everywhere we can when we're campaigning, so that people understand in Britain what the issues are. And I do think that we have achieved, not just us, but everyone has achieved tremendous change in the way that the people here in Britain see the conflict from 10 years ago. There is a change. The Israeli supporters cannot get away any longer with trying to slander us and slur us with accusations of anti-Semitism, because people understand the issues. We are not anti-Semitic. We uphold the rights of Jewish people, Muslim people, Christian people, all people. But we do not see that as having anything to do with the way that the Israeli state, the Israeli government, actually carries out its expansionist policies, which are clearly an imperialist, colonialist project to take over the whole of Palestine.